Welcome to Composers Play. My name is Scott Tobin. For the last 10 years, I've been composing music for video games, such as Project Reality, Squad, and Postscriptum. The concept of Composers Play was brought on from my passion for video game music. So, join me as I relive, discuss, and get a little nostalgic with the composers of some of the most memorable video game music. Hey everyone, and welcome to Composers Play. And today I'm going to be playing Tyrian with the original game designer, sound designer, and composer Alexander Brandon. Thank you so much for joining me, Alexander.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh man, this is going to be awesome.
Yes.
Man, you know, I was getting a bit of practice in beforehand, so I'm still a bit rusty, and I might even put the cheats on at some stage so I can kind of.
Oh, don't feel bad at all. I am the worst when it comes to Twitch games and shooters. So I haven't even gone near Ikaruga just because I'm deathly afraid of it.
Let's go. So yeah, I'm actually streaming this to Alexander. He's got a live stream of my game, and we're just gonna be just chatting and playing. So so before I get started on talking about Tyrian, how did you get into doing video game music?
Well, I got into video game music a long time ago, and you know, I hate to say, as is oft told, but I know that I've mentioned this a few times, but I never tire of repeating it, because in today's, you know, you get so much, you know, info so fast through Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff that people forget, right? So it's you know, doing interviews like this, just the more interviews there are, the more it adds to critical mass of knowledge, I guess. So I got into it back in, I'd say, I mean, I never really paid attention to game sound. I mean, I was playing games since Asteroids was in the arcades back in the early 80s. Yeah, but the Emporium in Annapolis, Maryland was the first arcade that I played. I saw Asteroids, put a quarter in, and I was pretty hooked. I mean, this was unbelievably cool, fun. And so, yeah, I mean, my dad recognized that, and I said, hey, I want to open an arcade when I grow up. He's like, you know, he would roll his eyes and groan a little bit. And I would have done the same thing. Anyway, the first time I really got into it was when a friend of mine, who would become he's my oldest friend, who would become a colleague later on, Jason Emery, was playing Metroid. And his parents had got him a Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't think it was the Deluxe, because that had the light gun. He got the one with Rob. No, he got a Deluxe, and then they got him Rob separately, I think. Not that really super matters, right? But he was playing Metroid, and he called me up, and he said, listen to, it's 5-voice music. And you know, that's what he called it over the phone. And he played me. He was playing the game, describing everything over the phone, and I wasn't bored. I wasn't like, oh, you know, why don't I just come over and play? I just sat there and listened. Right. And I was just mesmerized, right? So I'd say that was the first when the first real seed was planted about sound. And you know, I'd be lucky enough to meet when I was working at Ion Storm, Warren Spector was my first, you know, a full-time job boss in the industry. Wow. He was bringing a Japanese journalist through the studio at Ion, and this guy was super nice. I said, oh my gosh, do you know anybody that I could talk to about having or you know, meeting Hip Tanaka, excuse me. And he goes, yeah, I'd be happy to introduce you via email. And he did, and Tanaka-san wrote back, you know, this dream come true. I got to ask him some questions. It got printed in Gama Sutra. But yeah, that was, anyway, so that was really the germ of how everything got started.
Man, they're so catchy. Was that intentional? Oh, I just died.
Oh no! But yeah, no, it's the tracks just came about. Oh my god, yes, that's right. Yeah, that the bullet hell can take place. Anyway, so yeah, the tracks were really just, I mean, and this is a part of what went into the old school of game development, right? Like, and I'll use an example. The way that Tyrian got started with development was Jason Emery was programming this parallax scrolling engine, drawing his own sprites. I drew a couple. I drew the interface for this sprite drawing tool that he had designed, or I helped draw it. Like, we were collaborating on whatever we could, and he was nice enough to let me sort of pitch in. But like we sent all that to Epic. Actually, that was my part. Like, I'm the one that sort of wrote up this letter. My dad, who was a business consultant, gave me some help with how to make a good presentation to publishers. So we got a couple packets. We sent 3 out. We sent one to Origin, which we never got a response. We sent one to admittedly the games they were doing were really not that kind of game, and I'm sure they probably got a lot of demos from RPGs and Wing Commander, but the level of quality that they had, and they were doing pretty much everything in-house. So just strategy-wise, it wasn't the best, but that was the company that we really respected the most at the time. And then so Epic was another one, and Apogee was another one. Now Epic and Apogee both got us back these packets that both looked as though they were from the the shareware company get a new developer mail order catalog, because they both had the same content. They had the same glossy folder. The logos were the same size. They were white folders. It was like they were owned by the same parent company. It was bizarre, but no, that was apparently somewhat coincidental. Anyway, so I'm digressing just a tad, but
that's okay.
But we got assigned. We got interest mainly due to Cliff Bleszinski, who saw the link to Xanac, which was a fairly forward-thinking shooter for the NES that had real-time difficulty, which I don't think we do that in Tyrian, which is kind of hilarious. You select the difficulty and it does, change the difficulty. But I don't think it's dynamic like in Xanac. If you get a really powerful power-up, tons more shots will appear. I don't know if we ever managed to do that. Anyway, so we got assigned a producer. The producer found this artist, Daniel Cook, who makes the gorgeous artwork that you're looking at right now on the Amiga, no less. So we got like the benefits of an Amiga type of game, like on the PC, which was fantastic. But here's the thing, like Dank, as he was, his nickname, DANC, he would just send us art and we would put it in. It was all gorgeous. We might have given him like a couple pieces of feedback once in a while, and Jason would have certain requests that sometimes he would have time, Dan would have time to do, and sometimes he might not. And I'm sure that pay had something to do with it, but he was a college kid at the time. He's like, I'm getting paid for working. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. But here's the thing, right? A lot of games, like if it just looked good, we just did it, and
Gotcha.
or if it had an element of fun to it, right? It would just happen. There wasn't a ton of iteration and back and forth and honing and all of this stuff. It was literally just throwing stuff in, tweaking it. Jason was the one that would really try to concentrate on making sure that it would happen. Oh my gosh. And so, you got the armor ship. That's awesome. Yay, finally. Congratulations. Level 1 complete. So the music is the same. I wrote the music I just start writing. And there was at least one song in here that I think was for Gyges, Gyges.
Oh yeah, I know.
The rock level that I think I specifically wrote to be a remix of a Thunder Force song, or Thunder Force 3 on the Genesis. And thanks to the amazing work of Andreas Molnar, this guy that had the Loudness sound system, which is in several other games, but a lot of them weren't as well known. But he basically turned an ad-lib using its YM sound chip, which is similar to the Genesis one, but not quite as sophisticated.
Right.
He turned it into into more of a Genesis, and that my jaw dropped when I heard the versions that he would put together. So between him and the stuff that I was just putting into the game, whatever happened, yes, it was definitely intentional for it to be catchy, but I didn't concentrate on, hey, what's going to be catchy? I just wrote it. So that's how that worked.
So you kind of had a, obviously because it was your game essentially. You had kind of free reign to do what you wanted, right?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, we would get suggestions from Tim Sweeney on Tim was not a fan of story presentation.
Okay.
From the beginning, if we had screens that would come up that would explain the story, and that would have little pictures of people's faces talking before the game actually started, Tim would be playing that and go, or watching it and go, oh man, people aren't going to want that. You want to get into the game, you want to start them playing right away.
Right,
that was a piece of feedback that he had, and that I think we followed to some degree. Cliff didn't really do all that much for feedback. I mean, he was busy with Jazz 2, I think, at the time, and then towards the end of the development, because this shipped in '95, so that was just as Unreal was getting started, right?
Wow.
Yeah, the seeds of Unreal were being planted at this point when Tyrian shipped. So before that, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Jazz 2 that were really occupying Cliff's time. But yeah, other than that, the only person that gave us feedback would be Robert Allen, the producer. He gave us feedback that wasn't, pushy. It wasn't, hey, this is the kind of game I want to make. It was only really from a business perspective. He'd be like, hey, you need a README file. Alex, why don't you go write that? I'm like, okay.
Right.
And then he would say, you need, the following would be good to have in the first episode, just so that you don't give away the farm. Little pieces of advice and feedback that producers, from my perspective, supposed to give, that's helpful. But otherwise we just ran, and that Dank would provide the art. I provided some of the writing and then the music, and a little bit of feedback for Jason, and then Jason took it all in hand and just went nuts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like all the tunes, all the songs in the game are so catchy, and if you I could probably hum about, I don't know, I'd say probably about 6 or 7 of them,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, they have all they're really good. Everybody who's played this game would recognize, the first motif you have, the first track, that. I mean, it's such a simple melody, but it's so catchy, and then you develop it a little bit. That's just one of many.
Is that a Korg keyboard you've got there?
No, it's M Audio.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
I have it plugged into one of my Contact instruments.
Cool.
Yeah, I probably should have picked something synthy, but.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, in fact, Andy Sega, who's an inspiration of mine as well, he writes he used to write mod files. He still does albums. I was like, oh, I need more keyboards. He's like, no, dude, that's stupid. Just get a controller and get a whole bunch of modules, or get a software. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. So you did remind me of something with the first track with Tyrian. The inspiration from that was directly from the first track in Super Turrican for the SNES.
Oh yeah, I remember.
When I wrote Tyrian and I went back, or I listened to it in the game, I'd go, oh my gosh, I totally completely ripped off Chris Hulsbeck. And it turns out, when I went back to listen to Super Turrican, I'm like, yeah, there's the don't dig it. Right. That sort of bass line takes place. Other than that, it doesn't really riff off of Super Turrican that much. It's its own thing, which made me feel pretty good. I was like, oh, good. I didn't just copy someone else's song.
Sure, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get inspiration if you're, completely on your own. That's what I was going to ask you next. What were you listening to when you were doing the soundtrack? Was it, were you listening to CDs and going, maybe this might work, or?
Oh yeah, well, I would say that for sure. I'm thinking. Sorry. it was so long ago.
It was a while ago.
It really was. It was more than 20 years.
Wow.
23 years.
Yeah, sounds about right.
God, has it been that long? That's just nuts. Anyway, I was listening to all kinds of stuff. I would listen to Tangerine Dream. I liked Jean-Michel Jarre. I liked pop stuff that was out. I mean, as far as the '90s goes, I was listening to pop a little less, and I was listening to synth stuff a little more, like Beyond the Mind's Eye by Jan Hammer, who
Oh
also
yeah, I
did
remember,
the
cool.
yeah, that did the Miami Vice stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was definitely really geeking out on game music and synthesizer stuff. Standard nerd fare, if you will. But
Oh, you got it. You have to.
yeah, well, it's cool. It really. Oh, Mannheim Steamroller was another influence for sure.
Okay, don't know them. I'll have to give them a listen.
But well, Mannheim Steamroller is Chip Davis, and Chip Davis is someone that owns Omaha, Nebraska.
Right. Okay. Well,
I'm exaggerating because Spencer Nielsen used that term when I interviewed him for the Echo the Dolphin score. Yeah, he started. I mean, he basically just wanted to do music that was synthesized but with a live drum set because he was a drummer. But he would write this music, put the live drums to it, and release Christmas-themed albums, and did a bunch of other stuff that was designed to showcase. Nice job, by the way. Completed Asteroid.
Oh man, thank you. Do you know what? It's the hardest thing doing an interview and playing games at the same time. But you know, I'm actually getting better at it. I'm getting better at it. So I swear I'm listening to you.
The multitasking, man. I can't do that to save my life. Anyway, yeah. So Chip. Anyway, Mannheim Steamroller does. You know, they're Christmas themed, and they're some of them are themed for like wildlife or nature or things like that. But for the most part, they're famous for their Christmas albums.
Right. Okay.
And it's just remixes of Christmas songs. But he's made millions of dollars from this stuff.
Wow.
It is just crazy. Anyway, so that I was introduced to that by Jason's mother was listening to that, and she liked that stuff, and she used to like Phantom of the Opera and Miss Saigon, you know, the musicals.
Right.
Anyway, so I wasn't so much listening to those, but anyway, so I was influenced heavily, I suppose, you know, along those lines, but also mod files. You know, so you've got Future Crew, Purple Motion, Skaven, you know, Necros with Andrew Sega stuff. Yeah. I think all of that stuff was an influence at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I did a composer play with Andrew on the Crusader music.
Oh my god, that is awesome!
Yeah,
I mean, is it on your YouTube channel? Because I really want to check that out.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it was. He's a character. He's absolutely brilliant. You know, I had a great time with him. But yeah, like Crusader as well. One of my favorite games, and that was, you know, that was something I never got into when I was doing music, was the mod stuff. I always stuck with MIDI, so but it was really, it was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he had, and as a matter of fact, since we worked together here and there, there was a crusade, if do some air quotes, to get mod music into Origin systems. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, and it's funny, I'm sure I know all these guys now, but back then, the story that, like, he went to work for them as a programmer, right? Because like he did, you know, he's a double threat there with, you know, being a super talented musician and really skilled programmer, and he works at Zynga in New York, and he's doing amazing stuff for them. But at the time, when he went to Origin, we all, you know, I would email him or call him or whatever and say, hey, you're going to get us all jobs at Origin, right? And his response was, dude, I'm sorry, but like, you know, everybody here is MIDI. Like, there's so many people here that are, you know, they've got their keyboards, and when I showed them mods, they were like, oh, this is just, there's no way I'm going to write music, you know, by, you know, typing in the notes and putting, you know, hexadecimal commands into a column. And I get it, and that makes sense. Despite, you know, and I even did a demo of Stones as a mod file that I'm pretty sure Richard Garriott listened to. I would end up doing a song for Richard Garriott later in the future, which was amazing as well. But this was long before that, and yeah, so that mods never actually became a part of Origin regularly. But the way that it got its way into Crusader, I'm sure he's already explained this, was Jason Eli and was it Jason Eli? I think it was. The head of the Crusader team was a fan of mods. And that's what led him to reach out to Andy. And Andy was like, yeah, sure, I'll write some music for you. And then I'm sure that's how they got to talking about programming. And it was like, hey, if you program, come on down here and work for us. Yeah.
That's amazing. So did you write everything in with keyboard, or were you just sequencing by mouse?
So the way that I wrote stuff for Tyrian was mouse. It was a piano roll format using AdLib Visual Composer, and I would write the songs, save them to the .rol format, and then Andreas Molnar would take them in hand and turn them into .lds files, which are loudness digital system, something like that files.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not even sure. You know, I mean, I think I know. I think I have a connection with him on LinkedIn, but we haven't talked in years.
Right.
So I mean, like there are people that are like, hey man, I'm trying to do like a super awesome 96 kilohertz version of Tyrian. I don't know, but like, they'll say, do you have a player for LDS? And I'm like, yeah, you might want to ask Andreas about that.
Right. Okay. So do you have any favorite music from Tyrian? Do you have a favorite track?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. I'd say the main Tyrian track would be one that I come. That's impressive.
Obviously, you're a bit of a gamer back then. Are you still playing now?
Not as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
You do this cycle where I'm more informed of games through my kids than I am through my own efforts. Like my middle son Connor is a big fan of Fortnite. Loves Fortnite.
Okay.
Plays as much as he can. We have to force him to go to bed, force him to do his homework, all this stuff. But he loves Fortnite. I played so many games in my youth that the more I play now, it's just it's harder to get excited by something. I'm excited by virtual reality as a possibility, but it's still got a long way to go before it gets really widely adopted. It's got to go through the paces. I like the old school games, like the Circle of Blood, is a lot of fun, and they're coming out with new Mega Man collections all the time and that sort of thing. So it's fun to go back and just see what this stuff is like. But I'll be honest with you, I totally old man stuff. I play like when I get a few minutes, I will pull out my phone and I'll play Words with Friends 2 and Bejeweled 3 or Bejeweled Blitz. It is so. I might as well be like wearing leopard print and like going to knitting bees or something like that. It's no offense to middle-aged ladies, but at the same time, I'm playing these games going, boy, I'm a real game industry wizard, huh? And I have like Doom is still wrapped and on my shelf. I've played probably I've probably played about, I'd say, a good 3 to 4 hours of Prey. I really liked Prey.
Yeah, I
want to finish it up. Oh, you didn't get into it?
No,
I recommend.
I want to.
Yeah, it's good. It's like it scratches the System Shock itch. I'll just put it like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But it's been brilliant having you on, Alexander. It's been absolutely great fun.
Oh no, I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't have more time. But no, this was yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's brilliant. I appreciate you doing it with me because this game. I don't know if I know a lot of people around from when I was playing computer games played this game. Because if you didn't have a console, this was the top 10 shooter to have. Like everybody played this,
Oh man, that's awesome.
And,
that's good to know, dude. I'm glad, and I'm glad people are still digging it. I did an interview with PC Gamer about 3 years ago. It still holds up. I think the only regret now is that like Jason decided to give it away for free about 10 years ago. We might be retired by now. I'm just kidding.
It's been really fun and the music and everything. The music just I know it was one of your first games you did and one of the first music you did for video games, but it's so good, so catchy, so happy. All the tracks are really memorable and it just suits the game.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it, man.
Oh man, no worries at all. And listen, thank you so much again for joining me on this, and hopefully I'll catch you again soon.
All right, well, have a great one, and thank you.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.